Hi, it's Greg Hurrell here with another Vim screencast. And tonight I want to talk about editing Markdown in Vim. Now, there are two places where I mostly accumulate Markdown documents. One of them is in my collection of personal notes, which I've been managing for quite a few years now in this application called Corpus. Now, this is a clone of Notational Velocity, or NV-Alt. It's an Electron app, which means it's written in JavaScript. And the reason I made this is because I wanted some features that didn't exist in NV-Alt. And it's pretty quick to throw something together with Electron, quicker than ramping up on a third-party code base in another language. And so I made this. And it's worked quite well, but one of the problems with it is it's not Vim. And this text field here on the right is just the dumbest possible editor you can imagine. It's not modal and it doesn't have any of the Vim stuff in it. But what I do like about Corpus is at the end of the day, you wind up with a collection of plain text documents that are written in Markdown and that are versioned in a Git repo. So they're pretty robust, they're pretty durable, they're readable even in source form. And I know that if I ever want to migrate away from Corpus, it's easy to do so because they're just Markdown documents. Along similar lines, the other place where I write a lot of Markdown is my website, where I've got quite a few blog posts over the years and thousands of wiki articles, all of them written in Markdown. And again, these are just plain text files that are in a Git repo. And in fact, if you go to the repo that powers the website, on the content branch here, you can see all of the resources. So in the wiki here, we've got thousands of documents that, as I said, are all just Markdown documents. Now, in other episodes of the screencast, I have talked about how I edit these documents in Vim. But I've been thinking about this a bit lately. And thinking how I would like to unify the setup so that I'm not writing some of my documents in Corpus and some of my documents in Vim. I'd obviously like to write them all in Vim. And so that's what I'm going to talk about tonight. But before I dive into looking at the solution, I just want to mention that there are a few plugins out there already for managing Markdown documents, or really just any kind of document in Vim. One of the most notable ones is Vim Wiki, which I haven't used. And in fact, all of these plugins that I'm going to show you, I haven't used any of them. But I am at least aware of them, and I wanted to mention them. The reason why I'm not using something like Vim Wiki, which seems to have a similar goal of managing a collection of related documents, is that this is a pretty heavyweight plugin. So if you look at the documents here, the help documentation, it's like over 3,000 lines long, and it just gives you a sense of just how much functionality is in this plugin. And I don't really want anything that powerful. I really just want to point Vim at a folder full of Markdown documents and be able to find things quickly, link back and forth between things, but that's about it. There's a lot of stuff that's in here that I just don't want. And so just to mention a couple of other obvious options, there's Vim Org Mode, which once again I haven't tried and is also probably way more powerful than what I need. Moving towards the simpler end of the spectrum, there's a project called Vim Pad. There's this other one called Vim Notes. Neither of these do I really know much about. And then here's an interesting one. You'll see how it explicitly mentions Notational Velocity, which is the app that I mentioned first of all, and which Corpus is a clone of. However, this solution here, which is designed to bring that NV-Alt or Notational Velocity style of working into Vim, isn't quite what I'm looking for. It requires you to use FZF, which I don't actually have installed in my system. And I want something that's probably a little bit more like NV-Alt than what you can get here. And finally, the last one I mentioned would be this very minimal wiki plugin, which I haven't tried. But if I was going to try something, this would probably be the one I'd try, because it doesn't try to do too much. As it says here, it provides you with a way of linking pages and moving back and forth between them. And that sounds like a useful thing to have. And I like the fact that it's lightweight. So now let's look at solutions. First of all, I'm going to move over to Corpus so you can see what it looks like and get a sense of some of the features that I would like to bring across to Vim. The first one is this basic layout where you have a list of notes on the left and the content on the right. You can create notes pretty easily. So if I just say new note and hit enter, I can provide some content. And when I hit escape, I return back to where I was before. I can jump around notes. When I edit a note, you'll see that it moves to the top. And I can jump pretty easily to the search bar there and search for stuff. So for example, if I search for the word note, it narrows the list down to notes containing only those words. And I can select them and move around like that. There are a few other features as well, like tags, which I don't think are that interesting, but I wanted to mention them anyway. So you can see there that note's been tagged, and if I click on the tag, then I see all the notes that have that tag in them. Okay, so that's Corpus. Now let's cut over to Vim, and I'll show you what I've got working so far in my Vim-based replacement for this. So I think actually I'll start by showing you the config first of all. Basically, this thing requires you to explicitly configure some directories where you want Corpus to manage a set of documents. And I've got a demo directory here and my home directory called Corpus. And then I've got another one down here, which is the place where I keep my personal notes. This one has something like 700 or maybe 500 notes in it. And then down here, I've got all the notes from my wiki. And if you just look at the settings there, you'll get a sense already of some of the things this plugin can do. But I think it's going to be clearer if I just show you. So I'm going to open Vim. When I hit my binding to pull up Corpus, because it knows which directories I have notes stored in, I can jump conveniently to one. If I hit the mapping again, it'll show me the notes. And we've got the same layout here with a list of notes on the left and the preview on the right. I can move between the notes and see their contents. And when I am on the one that I want to open, I just hit enter and I'm there. If I bring the mapping up again, want to go to another note, I can do that, or I can hit escape to go back to where I was before. So that is a simple example of navigation. Let's imagine I wanted to create a link between a couple of notes. So imagine I want to talk about holidays. So the way I would link this word would be to hit Control right bracket, and that will turn it into a Markdown shortcut link. And if I hit the Control right bracket again, it'll take me to that file and I can save it. So here I am with my notes about holidays. And of course I can use the jump list, Control O to go back where I was, Control I to go forward in the jump list. I can write that file, I can go back again, I can move around in all the ways I would normally move around in Vim. And you'll notice if I hit Control right bracket on a thing that already exists, it just takes me there. But because, as I said, this is Vim, I can use whatever other plugins that I might have installed. So for example, I can use Command T to open files if I want. I can use Vim Dervish, which is a plugin that I've just recently started using instead of Nerdtree to look at the contents of a directory. I can use Goyo, for example, if I want to get a focused writing mode. Basically, all of this stuff is just going to work as you would expect in Vim, but it's pretty nicely integrated. So what is the other part of this puzzle? Well, we have links, but this link here doesn't actually mean anything. As you probably know, normally in Markdown, links look like this. You have text, and then you have a target, which could be something like a website. So let's just go example.com. There are also these things called reference links. So just say I want to talk about bash is a shell. So the way we know where to go when somebody clicks on bash is to define this reference definition. So let's just imagine, I don't even know the address. Let's just guess the address. So basically, when I click on this in a Markdown document, well, actually, let's preview this. So we have here, when I hover over bash there, you'll see that it knows that the target of that link is gnu.org/projects/bash. And obviously the YAML metadata at the top is not shown, and these reference definitions are not shown either, because the Markdown renderer knows not to show them. So one thing that happened there that I didn't explicitly comment about was when I saved the file, this link here had a link definition created for it automatically. So I'm going to undo that change. Oops, let me undo it once more. So when I save this file, I've got an auto command set up that's going to look through for all the places where I have shortcut links like this. And if they do not yet exist, it's going to create a link definition for them. So I'm going to save again just so you can see that. And you'll see that down the bottom there, it created holidays and knows that it is a file in this directory. And so if I GF on that, that's another way to go to a file. I guess one thing to notice about that is that it knows how to map a link text to a file name. So for example, you see that it added the MD extension there. So that's a demo of how I would use this to manage my personal notes. But let me reopen Vim actually. I'm going to go back to Corpus, and this time I'm going to go to my wiki. And you see here that the wiki has many more files in it. So I'm just going to jump around those a little bit. Let's open this one. So you can see here I've got some notes on this wiki. The link format we want is going to be a little bit different here, because instead of linking to Markdown documents in the current folder, I want to link to relative URLs. So you see here the ACE file format should map to /wiki/ACE file format, and that the underscore should become spaces. So if I delete that and turn it into a shortcut link and save the document, you'll see first of all, it automatically populated the title metadata there, which I'm going to explain in a second. And also down the bottom here, it automatically created a link reference definition. So ACE file format maps to /wiki/ACE underscore file format. And if I go to my wiki, what's this ACE file? This is a self-link, so it's not really necessarily that interesting. But if I go to the wiki over here, ACE file format, you'll see here that is indeed the URL that I want to navigate to. Now, in this project as well, the ability to jump to other files is built in. So just say I wanted to, not that I would actually do this, but just say I wanted to turn the word can into a link, I can do control right bracket, and that is not actually what I wanted. I found a bug. Okay, we're going to pretend that didn't happen. I'm going to go here and try to jump to this article, control right bracket, and you'll see that it jumped right there. So we have the ability in this environment also to move around, create links, and find documents, even though the conventions for how documents link are different on a website than they are in a personal notes folder. So at this point, I think I can go back to the settings that I briefly showed you before, and we have a bit of context now to understand what all these things do. So auto reference 1 basically means that when I save the file, I want those reference links to be extracted and put down the bottom of the file automatically for me. Auto title, when that's one, means that I want the title metadata inserted into the YAML metadata block at the head of the document. Base basically configures what I want to be used as a prefix for link targets. And I can also tell it to insert tags automatically in the metadata section at the top of the document. And then I have a couple of different transforms available. There's either web or local. So local assumes you're just wanting to create a link to a Markdown file that's on the local file system, whereas web assumes that you want to go to some kind of wiki style link where spaces have been turned into underscores. And finally, the last one that I haven't mentioned yet is this auto commit one, which basically means whenever you save a document, you want the plugin to create a commit for you. And so you can see I've got that turned off for the wiki, but I've got it turned on for my personal documents. So if we go to that directory, you'll see if we look at the log, whenever I make a change, it creates one of these Corpus auto commit messages and saves the content for you. So that is that. There's one final thing I want to show you, and that is why I have it set up to populate the metadata section with title information, because that is, at the end of the day, redundant. So when I open Corpus, you'll notice that this time I opened it already being in the Corpus directory, so I didn't have to choose the directory, it just automatically dumped me in this view. But let's have a look at this new note. So you'll notice this note doesn't have a title yet, but when I save it, the title metadata gets created as I would want. So why do we want this title metadata redundantly encoded inside the file as well as inside the name? Well, the reason is that when I'm searching for things in Corpus, I can not only move up and down through the list, but I can search for words. So for example, if I type holid here, it found the two documents that had the word holidays in it. Now, it is possible that I might have some words in the title of a document that don't correspond to the contents of the document. So let's actually just make a new document here. Let's make a document called funstuff.md. And this will detail all my hobbies. So if I search for the word fun stuff, the reason why we're able to see that document listed here is because we're actually doing a full text search of the documents, and we're not searching the titles of the documents. If the title metadata were not inside the document, then fun stuff wouldn't turn up in this search, and that wouldn't be very nice. So the reason why this is happening, let's just go Corpus autoload. Git. This is the reason why I'm doing a search that's based on full text search. It's because we're using git grep under the covers. So basically, rather than searching titles and searching content, I just search content. So this is, I guess, what you could call a simplifying assumption that has made the implementation more straightforward at the cost of a little bit of extra automation to make sure that metadata is redundantly encoded inside the metadata. So that's all I've got at this point to show you here about Markdown editing. At some point I'm going to probably release this plugin, but at least for now I just wanted to demo it just to show what I've been up to. So I hope you found this interesting, and even though I haven't got any software here for you to actually try yet, I can include a link to my .files in the notes that accompany this video, where I'll point you to where this functionality is currently living. And even if you don't use this stuff, hopefully some of those other tools that I mentioned at the beginning of the screencast prove useful to you. And maybe one of these would be the thing that enables you to spend more time in Vim and less time in other inferior pieces of software. So once again, thanks for your attention, and I will hopefully be back again soon with some more Vim content for you. All right, see you later. Bye.